Hi, everyone. Welcome to Shhhcrets. Before we get into it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you like raw, unfiltered opinions and the kind of truth that makes folks squirm a little. Today, I'm not neutral. I'm not playing both sides. I stand with Nicki. Let's go back to where this all started, July 2025. This wasn't your average celebrity subtweet session. This was a full-blown purge. Nicki Minaj took to Twitter and lit the whole industry on fire. No cryptics, no cute hints. Full names were dropped, legal documents were referenced, and behind-the-scenes tea spilled so hot it probably scalded a few NDAs. Jay-Z, Roc Nation, Desiree Perez, Thee Stallion. All of them caught strays, or rather direct hits. And at the time, people said she was spiraling, emotional, unhinged. But now, every new revelation that's come out since has proved she was telling the truth. The same people she called out are the ones showing up in lawsuits, depositions, and messy public scandals. What looked like chaos in July now reads like foresight. Let's start with Tidal. Jay-Z allegedly promised Nicki equity in the platform in exchange for her promotion. Not only did she hold up her end, she gave them exclusives, she helped legitimize the brand, but when the billion-dollar sale happened, she claims she never saw a dime. Not one red penny. But they had the nerve to offer her a hush money payout of $1 million like she was just some disposable influencer instead of the woman who kept their brand afloat next to Beyoncé. And when Nicki didn't sign a last-minute paper they suddenly cared about, now they want to play dumb and say, oops, no contract, no payout. But there's footage of her signing on camera. So what's the truth? Because if y'all had her working for years with no valid contract, then you were fraudulent. And if the contract she did sign wasn't binding, then you played her. Either way, it's giving exploitation. Now let's talk about the other scandals circling Roc Nation, like flies on something rotten. Megan's ex-cameraman suing for harassment and disturbing misconduct. Jay-Z dodging a paternity test for a young man whose story has not changed in over a decade, whose mother passed away naming Jay-Z as the father, and who claims his car was shot up 6 times in what feels like a clear warning to shut up. And Desiree Perez's own daughter exposing her in interviews for abuse, manipulation, and imprisonment tactics using the mental health system. And since I recorded this, even more came out backing Nicki's claims. DJ Academics told a judge that Roc Nation had him deposed during the Thee Stallion case. But instead of sticking to that case, they were asking about Nicki and Drake. He said they had private investigators parked outside his home for weeks, watching him and everyone around him like it was a full-on stakeout. And here's the thing. He said exactly what Nicki's been saying, that Roc Nation uses fear, intimidation, and manipulation to silence people and control the narrative.
Even when I was talking to the judge today, I told the judge, I said, Judge, the reason why I feel this is harassment, Roc Nation sent people to my house out of the last 70, 75 days. 40 days out of those months, people are parked out my house. It's like a stakeout. They're now camping out of everybody who I know's crib, and it's not for me because they all know where I live at. I could tell they have whatever agenda they have versus Nicki, they're operating on, right? So they're like, let's see if Act knows anything. And Meg Thee Stallion versus a blogger has nothing to do with Nicki Minaj. Yet they ask about Nicki Minaj. Yet they brought up Drake multiple times. I do want to sit here and I want to validate some of what Nicki Minaj is saying, because what Nicki Minaj is alluding to with Roc Nation, I've seen that they use bully tactics to silence people, to get their way, to try to sway, coerce, and change people's opinions of things they care about. And they do it through nefarious means, or they will throw a ton of money, and you never know. Somebody might pop out the woodworks with an accusation, with a debt that you supposedly owe them, or they'll make up something that you're about to have to sell your house. I'm telling y'all, everyone isn't saying these things because of nothing.
But academics isn't the only one speaking up. Even people outside the rap world are calling out Roc Nation's tactics. Van Lathan from TMZ and Nessa Kaepernick, yes, Colin Kaepernick's wife, both said Roc Nation was behind a smear campaign against Colin. They claim Roc Nation worked with the NFL to twist the narrative after Kaepernick protested police brutality, planting stories to make him look difficult or greedy so they could justify blackballing him.
Nicki Minaj recently shared her experience of going through different smear campaigns and what happens behind the scenes, talking about Jay-Z, Desiree Perez, and Roc Nation, right? And a lot of people, what I saw online, were questioning her about this. And sadly, I knew it wasn't even a question because I saw it happen to Colin. And the worst part about during that time were the smear campaigns that were happening behind the scenes to try to discredit Colin publicly, to sway people to think that Colin was okay being blackballed or he was asking for a lot of money to play again. He was never offered a job the minute he protested.
But I know for sure, that Roc Nation was seeding negative stories about Colin Kaepernick during the time that he was really in traction with Jay-Z. I know who was on the other end of the phone. I know who Harvey's Roc Nation contact is, right? But the fact that they were people from Roc Nation that were trying to put negative stories about Colin Kaepernick into the ether is true.
And let's circle back to Desiree Perez, because her own daughter, Demori Hadley, filed legal documents saying her mother had private investigators stalking her and her husband. She said they were harassed, falsely imprisoned, and watched 24/7 for 2 years straight. And guess what? Her case is moving forward. The court dropped the RICO part, but the conspiracy and civil rights violations were approved. That alone tells you this isn't just gossip, it's evidence.
I have been falsely imprisoned and through the misuse of the Baker Act, the Marchman Act, and a petition for a guardianship. And then my husband was falsely imprisoned 3 times. And then we've had to deal with harassment following both from licensed and unlicensed private investigators, as well as both of us being sued, as well as both of us being potentially gagged, and then both of us threatened, and then both of us followed on a 24/7 basis for the last 2 years.
Let me ask y'all something. If a woman's own daughter is publicly begging to be believed and we still have people dismissing her, what chance does someone outside the family have against these industry gatekeepers? Nicki connected those dots. She said it's not just about Tidal. It's not about $9 million. It's about the shady puppet masters pulling strings, exploiting talent, and using scare tactics, manipulation, and legal loopholes to control, silence, and steal. And when you don't fold, they smear your name, label you crazy, and call in their press connections to turn the tide against you. And when Tina Knowles posted that passive-aggressive caption about being glad her faves didn't lose their minds like it wasn't a direct shot at Nicki, she got dragged so bad, she edited it and pretended it wasn't about anyone. Let's be serious. If you're going to throw shade, stand on it. Otherwise, don't post it. Because Nicki's fight is not with Beyoncé and definitely not with someone hiding behind their daughter's glow to lob sneak disses. But let's talk about Miss Tina for real. Because at this point, Tina Knowles is doing way too much. She moves like Beyoncé's pit bull, always barking when her daughter can't afford to get her own hands dirty. And it's high time people admit that Tina is likely just vocalizing the things Beyoncé actually thinks. Let's not be naive. Beyoncé is a Virgo. I am a Virgo. We don't move without strategy. She's not random, she's not reactive, and she definitely doesn't let her mother off the leash without knowing exactly what she's about to say. Beyoncé ain't fooling me. She's curated, controlled, and calculated to the core. She plays the silent goddess role while her mama takes the hits, and it works. But let's not act like she's some innocent bystander while her mother keeps stirring the pot every time a real one like Nicki speaks out. So, no, I don't believe Tina's post was innocent, and I don't believe the edits were an accident. That was PR cleanup after fans clocked what it really was, another distraction tactic, another attempt to silence and shame a woman who's finally telling the truth. Nicki said she's using the stolen money to send her fans to college. Let that sink in. While these people are pocketing hush money and blocking others from touring, she's focused on education. While Roc Nation allegedly manipulates contracts and hoards power, Nicki's offering scholarships. But she's still the villain, right? I see the pattern. I see how they only call Black women unhinged when they're finally done being used. I see how they try to turn the public against them, especially when the woman is no longer controllable. And I stand with Nicki. Say what you want about her tone. Say she's messy, say she's too loud, but the only reason she can be this bold is because she knows things that would shake the room. So instead of clutching pearls over her delivery, maybe ask yourselves why so many powerful people are silent when she speaks. Why is Jay-Z's team suddenly releasing statements? Why is Roc Nation's name showing up in lawsuit after lawsuit? Why is Megan being sued? And why does Desiree's daughter sound like a hostage? Because it's not just drama, it's damage control. So here's my advice. Pay attention to the patterns, not the PR spin, not the forced silence, not the distractions. Because when Black women like Nicki finally speak, it's because the silence was costing too much. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think Nicki is telling the truth, or do you think she's unraveling? I already told y'all where I stand.